right, so welcome back to the Crypto ZX channel, to the XRP family. Appreciate you guys as always for showing so much love day in, day out. Cannot thank you guys enough. Continue supporting and you will see a continuation of these updates. But happy Sunday, first and foremost, wherever you're around the world. Obviously, CME futures are close over the weekends. We do tend to see more manipulation than usual. But as far as the broader market is concerned, you are seeing, a handful of coins that are down, but majority of the market is still in the green. But as far as XRP is concerned, it's down right now a little bit. About 0.4% in USD and about 0.7% in Bitcoin. Comparative price at $2.39. Valuation sitting below 140 billion, to be exact, 138.8 billion dollars, and the 24-hour trading volume at about 1.5 billion. And of course, if you're looking at the 24-hour trading volume, that's something I want you guys to keep an eye out on. Right now, that number is lower compared to what we have seen in the past. Usually it's like 4, 5, 6 billion dollars. And of course, this is not the case right now. Something that we shouldn't really be ignoring when we are analyzing the prices together. But yeah, some things we've been discussing. My personal take, my personal opinion. Things are starting to make sense, and I'll elaborate a little bit more as we do go into the video. But before we do that, as always, just a quick disclaimer: anything on this channel is not financial advice. Always do your own due diligence and research when you are investing in crypto. So Ripple's RLUSD stablecoin is gaining traction with a $160 million supply and a growing number of Ethereum addresses holding the token. Of course, stablecoins are at the forefront. The conversation about stablecoins in the Congress, or even, when it comes from the adoption side of things from institutions, we're hearing, stablecoins being discussed so much, and we're hearing these discussions taking place from, people that we would not ever have expected to even be looking into a stablecoin a few years back. And that's really becoming a reality. And when it comes to big enterprises, they are not just going to use some random stablecoin that still has regulatory issues, whether or not there is that reserve that exists. But this is where that peace of mind comes into play. RLUSD checks all of those boxes. And when it comes to not just the stablecoin, we've been discussing, as we are seeing clarity coming towards this emerging industry, you will see Ripple really being that one-stop shop to really have pretty much all the puzzle pieces that all these organizations and enterprises need to be solved. It literally checks all the boxes, whether it's Ripple custody, so if it's providing custody services, if it's like obviously XRP ledger, if it's a stable coin, the list goes on. And I think we are in that revolutionary time for the first time in the history of crypto. And again, people are very fast to come and judge by the price of the price of XRP, the native token. Why is the price not reaching $10? Why is the price not reaching $20? Why is the price not reaching $100? But forgetting that everything starts from somewhere. Look at Apple. Look at where Amazon started. You always go from the hurdles that come into place. And of course, if you're still on the vision, if you're still on your main focus, whichever it is, like if it's obviously for you to develop and take blockchain industry to the masses, of course, then you got to stick to that target of yours. And Ripple did exactly that. And this is where the props is deserved, because this is not a new coin that has come out. It has survived a bunch of bear markets. There's so many different coins in the top 100 coins that have literally gone extinct, and you're still seeing XRP here, and it's thriving what it was intended to do, and it's building that. And now as regulatory clarity is coming, this is where it really takes that exposure. So huge plus point on that, and I'm not surprised at the fact that this is happening. And I think this is just the absolute start. And moving forward, I really wanted to kind of go over this. This is something I spoke to you guys about way before Johnny Crypto has come out and said this. You guys can see Johnny Crypto, co-founder of Merlin, explained that the lack of substantial price spike was expected. He argued that the markets often price in expectations well in advance, meaning the XRP rally that took the price from 50 cents to $2.50 last November was response to speculation that the case would eventually come to a favorable end. I could argue upon that. I think it's more of the Trump winning part. And of course, people just kind of overcoming, the specific lawsuit as well. Yes, I agree with that, sir. But of course, Trump winning was the pivotal moment. You can see when Trump won, there was no logical reasons for XRP's price to jump, but the market was pricing in the lawsuit would be dropped. Again, we need to understand the entire market went up with the Trump, winning. So that's why we saw the big, again, everyone has their own opinion, but I do believe that, the Trump, and what Trump was talking about when it comes to, cryptocurrencies, the innovation and how he wants, the U.S. to become the crypto global hub. So of course, when you kind of factor all those things in, and obviously the speculation happening, the U.S.-based, coins and companies, most importantly companies, could actually be, capital tax free. Again, that's still not confirmed. It's still up in the air. So we need to take it with a grain of salt. And that really sparked more excitement. And that's something that we don't want to be forgetting. So you can see he added that if the SEC has maintained the appeal, XRP's price would have likely plummeted instead of staying stable. I agree with that specific thing. What's next for XRP? You can see this for yourself. Nassif and his guests stressed that lawsuit resolution is important, but it does not guarantee immediate price gains. The next phase of Ripple and XRP will depend on adoption, real-world use cases, and institutional investments. And I think we're starting to see all these three things actually happening right now. Real-world use case, it checks the box. Adoption, again, it's not at the level where you wanted to see. Of course, real-world assets are being discussed so much, but I think we're still in the very early stages. Of course, in terms of real world assets valuation, the numbers are really high in terms of prediction, but I think we're still in the early stages, and that's something that we need to keep in mind. And institutional investments that's coming, I think the ETF will change the game for that. You can see Johnny pointed out that the XRP to climb higher, we need big contracts, institutional adoption, and fresh capital coming in, and I think this is where the ETF plays the game. And of course, we need to also keep in mind the entire market aspect as well. The entire market is pretty much kind of staying stagnant. Obviously, we did see a retracement, but has been stagnant over the last few days now. Of course, in a bull market, you do tend to see even major swings, and we're I think kind of seeing a little bit of a retracement right now. But I still do believe, based off of what we're hearing, I think we will see, later this year, market moving again. But I think ETFs will be the pivotal moment. But we'll see what happens. But as I've stated to you guys before, over the last few updates, I think it's already priced in. And at the same time, I do also believe that the price is being held low for a reason, and maybe there is manipulation. Maybe all these big entities, and I know a lot of people are going to come out and say, why are these big entities, picking up, OTC? If again, why would they pick up OTC? Why not on the market and appreciate the price? Why would they? Why would they? They want to benefit, right? So if they buy it OTC, and then let's say you do see an organic growth from the market itself, make its way up. This is what they want to see. They don't want to just come and buy millions and millions of dollars worth of XRP right on the market and have that cause a spike. They want rather do it OTC, and that tends to happen. And I think it all starts to make sense. But very, very interesting things happening. Let me know down below what you guys personally think. You can see what he says. Interestingly, analyst Mario shared similar views, noting that XRP is now trading at a new higher base. I really don't want you guys to forget about that. People are very fast to come and laugh at XRP not moving up, but people are completely neglecting the fact that we're currently sitting at $2.40, and a few months ago we were sitting at 50 cents. And again, you don't want to be ignoring that, because if you do, then you are being unrealistic. So if you're looking at the dominance index, I did mention this in my other updates, and it's still quite high, even though we have been pulling down since the 11th of March. But in the grand scheme of things, we're still really high for that. Again, if you want to look at BTC, Bitcoin's still ranging in the 38.2 Fibonacci retracement level. You guys know the importance of the 85K range. If we're able to break out of there, I do believe we could potentially start heading up to that 88K range, which we literally retested just a few days back. Looking at XRP, XRP obviously got rejected at the 38.2, which of course we know. I'm sorry, not the 38.2, the 23.6. Again, we know, but I'm really liking the way it's consolidating. Of course, we did make our way down to the likes of 235. Obviously, a lot of support around that range. But so far so good. Really like this accumulation pattern. Yes, some people will call this boring, but again, if you kind of zoom in and take a look at it, this is looking really, really good. And the fact that we have gone through a major roller coaster ride for the market over the last 1 month and a half, you still have not seen the price of XRP drop below and retest February 3rd levels, which again is an amazing thing that I don't want you guys to be neglecting. But again, obviously we need to keep in mind, BTC still, obviously in the grand scheme of things, nowhere as to where it needs to be, and you're still seeing the price of XRP pretty much on the neckline of the 23.6. Loving what I'm seeing here. Love you all. See you later in Crypto ZX, and peace out.